Hi, yarn tubers, and welcome back to Wanderlust Crochet and the Crochet Skills Development course. This is part 2 of assignment number 1. I'm Dana, and Dooley is supervising from the bunk. Today we're going to be making your first dishcloth. Hopefully you still have your notes from last week, and I want to thank Jewel from Colorado for pointing out that I forgot to put the chain 1 at the beginning of the row. When we are going back and forth in single crochet, we start each row with a chain 1. This is our turning chain. Thank you, Jewel, and at any time, if any of you catch me making a mistake, please, I want to hear from you. Please email me as Jewel did. That was great. Hopefully you gathered up all your supplies. I did suggest a pure white. They didn't have white when I went shopping. I got this ecru. But any solid color, well, you know, the variegateds are fine. I hear that they bleed, so you have to soak them in vinegar to set that color so that the colors don't bleed. Now, let's look at the label here. This is 100% cotton. It is it's a yarn weight of 4. They go from 1 to 6. Number 4 is also called medium. It's also called worsted. Overseas, it's called Aran. These are gauge symbols. You need to crochet up a gauge when you're doing things like clothing, you know, garments, or more sophisticated patterns. This is a dishcloth. We are not going to worry about gauge. The thing that matters to us right now is that the recommended hook size, see, those are needle size. Recommended hook size is 5mm, USH, or number 8. These symbols, if you go onto the Yarn Council's website, these pertain to care instruction. Basically what this is telling us is that it's machine washable and machine dryable. That's a great thing about crochet dishcloths. Now let's talk about your hook. Hopefully you picked up either this 3-pack of GH or I, or at least just an I hook. These boy ones, they say on them H, number 8, 5.0mm. This is the G and this is the I. These are perfect for starting out. Eventually, you know, you may want to go on to something that's a little more expensive. These Clover Soft Touch are my favorites. The other things are scissors, a pen and paper, your yarn or darning needle, large eye, and blunt tip. Now, the first thing I want you to do is cut 4 pieces of yarn off of your yarn ball that are 3 to 4 inches long. I'm going to have you using stitch markers to help you find your stitches because they're kind of hard to identify in the beginning. So get that done and meet me back here. Okay, I'm going to be working in yellow because I think it shows up better on this black background. The tail end, this is the tail end, and the end that goes to your yarn ball or skein or whatever you're working from is your working end. I have my working end on my non-dominant side. The tail end and the hook go towards my dominant hand. First thing I want you to do is learn how to create a slip knot. Now, I tie a regular knot like this, and I want you to do that a couple of times. Just tie a regular knot and then take it out. And after you've done that a couple of times, I want you to make it a slip knot. Easy enough. Just start to tie a knot, only this time don't pull that end through, just make it a loop. I want you to make a couple of slip knots now and practice making slip knots. Then, after you've practiced that 3 or 4 times, then you're going to insert your hook into that teardrop loop. These loops are teardropped, and the shape of the head of our hooks are actually from top to bottom. At the top they're a little wider and the point here is narrower. They slide through those teardrops. If you've got your hook face this way, you're going to hook it. But if your teardrop is like this, you want that hook pointed straight down to slide through. Okay, so here's how I hold my working end. I always have the yarn going over the top of my index finger so that I can work my index finger to increase or decrease tension. It goes in front of my two middle fingers and behind my little finger. I want you to keep practicing putting it in your hand like that. Pause the video if you have to. Then I use my second finger and my thumb to kind of stabilize and hang on to the work. Okay, we're going to make our first chain. Now, Mikey at the Crochet Crowd talks about this as like working a rowboat. Here's how I explain it, and I like that description. It's called yarning over. This is a yarn over. But the term yarn over suggests that you're working the yarn itself. Don't work the yarn, make the hook work. Your hook starts out in this kind of hold. This is how I hold my hook. Others hold it like a fork. I hold it like a knife. I start out with the point facing down as if I'm going to go through that loop. And I go under and up behind, and I twist the hook up, and I come forward with it and twist it down, and keep your tension pretty loose. Come down and gently pull it through the loop. That's one chain. Now I want you to do it again. Go up, come forward, and go down, and gently keep everything loose and relaxed, and pull through. Yarn over, point the hook down, pull through the loop. Yarn over, point the hook down, pull through the loop. Keep everything loose. Yarn over, pull through the loop. And as we go, as we're chaining, see how the chain gets further and further away from my stabilizing fingers? I just keep moving up. So sometimes I'll do 1, 2, 3, and readjust. 1, 2, 3, and readjust. How, it depends on, everybody's hands are different sizes. Now, the very next important thing, I'm going to make that loop really big so I can take the hook out of it. The very next important thing, and I'm going to set this down here, and I'm going to bring my phone down a little closer. I want you to notice the anatomy of these chains. See how we have all these teardrop shaped loops? They're all teardrops. Now when you're looking at the top of a stitch, you'll stitch into the top like this. This is called the front loop. This is called the back loop. And if you turn this chain over, you're going to see like a series of, like a spine. This is called the third loop. And when you first start out with your foundation chain, and then you turn and start to put single crochet stitches back into the chain, this is the loop you're going to put your stitches in. Now, first set of practice, I want you to practice making chain. I'm going to have you rip it out, which is called frogging. Rip it out, frog it all the way back. I want you to make a slip knot. Get your hook in there. Sure, Dana, you can do it. Like you know what you're doing. Okay, where's it's hard to look through the phone and not directly at the work. Okay, make sure you got, it's not too tight. I want you to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Let's do 21 just to make it easier to count, because I want you to put a stitch marker in number 20. So when we count stitches, Let's tighten that up a little bit. When we count stitches, we count these loops back. We don't count the loop that was on our hook. This is the first chain from the hook. This is the second chain from the hook. And this is number 20. So what I want you to do is roll over and look at the back. So the first chain from the hook, there's the third loop. Second chain from the hook, there's the third loop. Open that up a little bit. Stick your hook in there. And I want you to just pull one end of one of these stitch markers through and straighten it up a little bit. Get your hook back in the loop and chain another 20. Make sure you didn't twist your... So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. To practice chaining, I want you to chain 20, put a stitch marker in at every 20 chains, and stop when you've reached 100 chains. When you've reached 100 chains, I want you to stop and look at where your stitch markers are placed. I want you to look at your stitches and examine the anatomy of that chain. Then I want you to frog it back to nothing, start with another slip stitch, and I want you to make that chain of 100 5 times. I want you to practice chaining. Ideally, I would have you do it 10 times, but I don't want to overwhelm everybody. If you really want to be a super chainer, do it 10 times, but put a stitch marker in every 20 chains and then frog it back. And then meet me back here and we will get started on the single crochet. Okay, are you done practicing your chain? That is so important in the beginning, and a lot of people don't realize how important it is to just chain, chain, chain. You know, you could sit in front of the TV and just sit and chain over and over again, frogging, doing a new slip knot and chaining and frogging again. This will create an excellent foundation to your crochet in the future. Okay, now I went ahead and drew up a little chart, and I actually numbered the stitches across. We are going to chain 25, and that last chain is going to count as our turning chain. Single crochet in the second chain from the hook in that third loop, and we're going to do that all the way across. Here we go. Okay, and here's my quirky way of measuring. I measure down to the scar to do my slip knot, and that way I make sure I have plenty of tail in order to... Let me show you that again. Did I show you that earlier? I can't remember. This is a weird thing I've been doing for years. I start with it between my 2 fingers. I bring it down to the scar on my arm, which is right below my wrist, and I pinch right there, and that's where I approximately make my slip stitch so that I have plenty of tail to weave in or work over later on. Okay, so I'm going to snug it up a little bit, not too hard. Let's chain 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and pause the video. Meet me back here after you've chained 25. Okay, have you chained your 25? See those teardrops? We want to keep this pretty flat and not like twisted up. And we are going to put a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. We do not count the loop that's on the hook. Here's the first chain, and there's the second chain. Turn it over, and there is that third loop. Now sometimes if it's too tight, I will insert the yarning needle under there to kind of loosen it up. So insert your hook into the third loop, yarn over, and see the see the shape of your teardrop and where the point of your hook is pointing. Pull through, and this is called pulling up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2. That is a single crochet. Insert your hook into the next third loop of the chain, yarn over, pull through, and pull up a loop. Hang on to your work here with your fingers. Yarn over, pull through 2. Insert your hook into that third loop, yarn over, pull through, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert your hook. Sometimes I just use my fingernail to make sure the strands are where they're supposed to be. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. Loose stitches. Relax your hand. Yarn over, pull through the 2 loops that are on your hook. Insert. Yarn over, pull through, pull up a loop. There's 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2. Now I want you to do this all the way across. I know it's a little fiddly, but pause the video and meet me back at the end of this row. This will be row 1. Okay, I've done 22. This one's going to be 23. Get everything put back together here. Gently, everything gently, up and down. Oh, look at that dog hair on my finger. Dog hair is my world. Dog hair. This is tough to do when I'm looking through looking through the phone. Okay, and then the very last one is right next to that knot. Use my thumbnail. Sometimes you can use the darning needle to make sure you get everything in the right place. Now, I'm going to bring that loop up a little bit, and I'm going to count back my single crochet stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I can readjust here. 6, 7, 8, 9. This is tough. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 right there. Might be a good idea, depending on how your stitches are looking, to put a stitch marker in that very last one there, or the very first one actually. Hook that baby over and pull it through so that you can identify it when you come back across. There's row 1. Now I'm going to show you the pattern. I don't remember if I showed you the pattern, because you're going to need to pause and write this down at some point anyway. Here we go. Single crochet dishcloth pattern. Let's bring this down a little bit. Materials: 1 ball of 100% cotton worsted weight yarn, an H number 8 5mm hook, scissors, and a yarn needle. These are the abbreviations: stitch or stitches. SS is slip stitch. Sometimes it's SLP, ST. Your pattern should have this information provided for you. The chain, the single crochet, and RD for round. Pattern: we chain 25, And we just did row 1. We single crocheted in the second chain from the hook and single crocheted in each stitch across. Now we're going to turn, and there is our stitch count in parentheses, which we already counted. So here we are at the end. I just completed my last single crochet, and I'm going to turn my work. I turn it towards me like I'm turning a page. Get tangled up here, Dana. Okay. It's weird looking through the phone, that's for sure. Okay. So here I am back on the back side. Now, identify, see where that last single crochet is? It's right here. See, I just stuck my hook in there, and there's that teardrop of stitches right there. There's the second one. I stick my hook in underneath those, the front loop and back loop. There's that teardrop. Okay, it's hard to look. Okay, so you begin each row with a chain 1, very loose, very, very nice. And then here's the post of the first one, there's the post to the second one, and right in between you should be able to get your hook in underneath that teardrop of a stitch, that last one from the last row. Bring up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and there's your second one. Insert your hook, rest my arms a little bit, yarn over, pull through, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. There's the other 2 stitches, that top of that stitch that looks like a teardrop. Your hook goes right in underneath there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Get some slack here so I can have nice, loose stitches. Insert my hook underneath those 2 loops, yarn over, pull through, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, I want you to pause the video and meet me back at the end. Okay, I have done 22 of my 24 stitches. Now, let's get focused. Focus, please. Okay, I have 2 left. I have this one. I go underneath those 2 loops, which is the top of the single crochet from the previous row. Yarn over, pull through, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now, do you see how fiddly and hard to find that last one can be? That is why I have you put a stitch marker in there. So insert right where that stitch marker is, pull it out, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now take a look at your stitches. You have 2 rows here, and I want you to recognize how your stitches look. 2 rows of single crochet into a foundation chain. You are well on your way. Okay, turn your work like you're turning a page. Use your thumb or something to just recognize where that first single crochet is right there. Chain 1, and the reason why we chain 1 is because the single crochet is 1 chain high, and this brings you from down here to up here. Okay, so insert your hook into that first single crochet, yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so now you have, according to your teardrops, you have 1, 2, 3 single crochet. Get into that first one, kind of open it up, because I want you to insert your hook in that first one. Grab a stitch marker. Sure, Dana, that's how you do it. And pull one end of that piece of yarn, your stitch marker, so that it's in that first single crochet, so that you can find it when you come back. We didn't do it on this end, and you're going to see how difficult it is to find it. That last one, it's a little fiddly, but I'll show you when we get down there. So pause your video and meet me at the end. Okay, I just counted the top of my stitches across, those teardrops, and I have 22. That means there's 2 left. So I'm going to insert my hook into number 23, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now, this is what happens in the beginning when we're new at this and we cannot see that last stitch. It's very hard to find, but because I did not put a stitch marker in it. So there it is, there's the teardrop, using my yarn needle to find it. Now I can get my hook in there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Turn your work. We're going to go on to row 4. Okay, chain 1 and single crochet into that first stitch. 1, 2, and 3. Take my hook out. I'm going to insert my hook in that first stitch. Sure I am. And I'm going to pull one end of a stitch marker through there, just so that I can find it later on. Now, single crochet across and meet me at the end of row 4. Okay, I've got 2 left on row 4. There's a difference between working in rows and working in the round, so that's why I keep correcting myself. And here's that last stitch. Thankfully, I've got a stitch marker in there. Insert the hook, pull out the stitch marker, yarn over, pull through, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now, I want you to be able to recognize that you have 4 rows of single crochet here. Take a look at that. You've got your foundation chain, and you might want to, mark every so many rows. You're at 4. So you might want to leave a stitch marker in there so that you can keep count and stop at row 26. So turn your work, turn the page, chain 1, oops, you dropped it. Insert your hook into that first single crochet and work a single crochet. 1, 2, 3, get into that first single crochet again and work a stitch marker in there, just one end of it pulled through. Okay, and single crochet across. And there goes the train. Okay, and meet me at the end of the row. And here we are at stitch number 22. Here's number 23, and I have a stitch marker in number 24. Pull that out of there. Now, I want you to pause the video and come back after you have 26 rows. I'll meet you there. Now that you've learned how to finish off and weave in your tails, I want you to write down this portion of the pattern, which is the border. Round 1. Single crochet in each stitch around, three single crochets in the corners, and slip stitch to join to the first single crochet. Round 2. Chain 1. Repeat round 1, putting 3 single crochet in the middle, single crochet in the corners, slip stitch to join to first single crochet. Finish off, weave in ends. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, we finished our work over here, and I'm going to start at the top of this row and put a single crochet in each of those stitches across. But in the corner, we need to put 3. This is for turning, and then we're going to put a single crochet into the side of those rows, in the sides of those single crochets going down the side, and in the very corner we're going to put 3. We're going to single crochet in the bottoms of those stitches down there, putting 3 in the very corner, again up the side, putting 3 in the very corner, and then we're going to slip stitch to join to that very first single crochet. Okay, here's the top of my work. Do you remember how to do a slip knot? Just like you're tying a knot. Slip my hook in there. Now I'm going to pull that out because I didn't do my measuring thing. I need a longer tail so that I can weave in those ends easily. Okay. Sure, Dana. See, you're watching me fumble and stumble through this. Okay. It is hard to look through the phone rather than look directly at the work. That's okay, I'll get used to it. There we go. Remember, loose stitches. Relax your hand. This should be relaxing and fun. Identify that first single crochet stitch. See our teardrop? This is our chain here, and this is our teardrop. Insert into that stitch. Oh, sure. I might need a, there we go. Okay, and a slip stitch is nothing more than pulling through and pulling through the loop. That's a slip stitch to join. Now, I want you to chain 1. I forgot to put that in the pattern. You better write that down. I forgot to put the chain 1 in it. We start with a chain 1, and in the same stitch, do a single crochet. And a single crochet in the tops in these stitches all the way across. Meet me down at the end. Okay, so I've done 22 across. Here's 23. And here's 24. You might need to use your yarn needle to kind of open that up. Now, there must be 3 in the corner. So, put 2 more. And kind of turn your work back so you're looking at the side of your dishcloth. and take a look at these stitches. Now you know that you have 26 rows, and this third single crochet went into the side of the first row. Then you're going to see where this kind of vertical comes in. That's going to be number 2. That's going to be your second location for a single crochet. Then you're going to have kind of the post here with kind of a more open gap. That'll be number 3, and then you've got that vertical again. Number 4, number 5, 6, 7, and so on. And when you get down to the end, because you have 26 rows, 25 is going to be right here, and 26 will be right there in the corner. So let's get started. You see what I'm doing here. There's one, and then I'm going right there by that vertical. There's 2, and then around, it's kind of like a little set of chains right there. Number 3, remember to keep your hand relaxed. Lots of slack here. Your stitches loose. Relax. This is fun. Then back into where that little vertical stitch is. Then there's that open gap. Then in where that vertical is. And meet me down at the end. Okay, so I just went in where that vertical was. Now there's an open gap. Here is where the next one is. It doesn't really show a vertical like the others do, but I want you to go slip underneath there and put 3 in that corner. There's 1, and then in the same spot, 2, and then right here in the same spot, 3. Now, how many crossed? 24, but the third one in this spot counts as 1. So, and this is the bottom chain, so it's a little, it might be a little tough to get into some of these spots. Once again, don't forget your darning needle if it's just so tight that the head of that hook won't go through it. So this counts as 1. That's 2. And there's 3. Make sure you're getting under both of them. There's 4. And meet me down at the end. Okay, there's 22. 23. See, there's just a gap right there. Let's do, whoops, 24. And then 2 more in the same spot to make our 3 in the corner. When you're doing single crochet in the round, as a general rule, your corners get 3 when you're using the single crochet stitch. Okay, so this last one counts as 1. Identify where it's going to look a little opposite from that vertical you saw before, but there'll be a tiny spot, and then there'll be this wide open one, and then there'll be a tiny spot and this big open chain. So here, this one counts as 1, and then right in there where those 2 strands are going into, that's number 2. Number 3 is around this chain. Number 4 is down in there. Number 5 is around. Number 6 is in there, and so forth. meet me at the end. Okay, so I'm at number 24. There's number 25. And number 26 is part of that cluster of 3. But remember, we only started with 1 in that corner. And we need 3. So here's your first single crochet. We got to put 1 more in there. Now you have 3 in the corner, but you need to join by going underneath those 2, that teardrop in the top of the very first single crochet you made, and you're going to slip stitch. Now, if you feel that you can't find that middle of those 3 double crochets in the corner, like this is the slip stitch over, so you've got 1, 2, 3 double crochets in this corner, you've got 3 in this corner, but you need to identify 1, 2, 3, that second, the one right in the middle. It might be a good idea as you're going along to insert a stitch marker to help you identify it as you're coming around. Because as you're coming around this time, now you have a foundation of single crochet all the way around, and you don't really have to count unless you want to, but you have to identify that center stitch because you're going to put 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then you're going to get to this stitch and you're going to put 3 in. So I'm going to identify those in all of the corners. Sometimes you got to look at the back. This one right here is going to get a stitch marker. And in the next corner, identify, see there's 2 going in there, it's this one right here, right there. It's easier if I look, it's easier for me if I look underneath my phone. There's another stitch marker. Okay. Oh yeah, split it up, Dana. That one thing, my friend Connie and I call this splitty yarn because it splits easily. Okay, so 3 in this corner. Here's the middle one. And pulling a stitch marker through. Now, back to where I just was, back to my working end. Move this stuff out of the way, and we're going to start again. Sure we are, Dana. Okay, don't pull that too tight. Remember, everything's kind of loose and relaxed. And I want you to chain 1 because you're coming up to a second round, just like when you started out when you were working in rows. When you started a new row, you chained 1 to come up. And you put a single crochet in that same stitch. Now what do you think your count's going to be before you get over to this corner? Because this was the original one, and then you had your 24th one here, but you've got an extra one, makes it 25. So, but quite honestly, you can just take a look at it, and every time you see a single crochet, put a single crochet in it. This is where you can watch TV and single crochet across. Now, put a single crochet into the top of all the single crochets across this part until we get to the corner, and meet me back at the corner. Okay, I have 2 stitches left before I get to that middle one in the corner. Now, I'm there, so I'm pulling that stitch marker out, and I'm going to put 3 single crochets into this corner. And I've turned, and now I'm just going to start in the very next single crochet, and I'm going to start single crocheting across. Something I want to show you in this video before we get finished is how to join yarn when you run out of one ball and you have to start a new ball. So here's what I'm going to do to show you that. I'm going to cut this. I know, terrible, terrible, terrible. Now, here in this last stitch, I'm going to take my hook out and I'm just going to frog back that one stitch. And I'm going to start all over on it. I'm going to insert, yarn over, bring up a loop. Now, instead of finishing this by pulling through, by yarning over and pulling through, I'm going to kind of hold that back, and I'm going to grab the new strand, and I'm going to make sure there's at least 6 to 8 inches of tail with both strands. See this? Okay. And I'm just going to kind of pinch a little loop here. And I'm going to finish this stitch with the new strand. I want you to know this because you're going to have some homework. So then I'm going to single crochet. Oops, where's my working strand? Right here. Try not to get anything tangled up. I'm going to single crochet 1 or 2 more times, and then I'm going to go back and kind of snug up. Just snug it up just a little bit. Nothing tight. We don't want anything tight. We just don't want big fat sloppy, like you were coloring with a big fat crayon looking stitches. See there? Now, continue to single crochet on, and I will meet you at the corner. Okay, I have 2 stitches left before I get to the stitch with the marker in it, which is the corner. So 1, 2, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that out of there, and 3 single crochets in that corner stitch. 1, 2, 3, and then there's your next one. Work your way across and go around this corner, putting 3 in that stitch, and meet me over here at the beginning. We are almost completely done. Yahoo! Okay, now I'm going to do a little stitch identification here. I have 2 stitches left before I get to that middle stitch where I'm going to put 3. And remember that there's one more stitch right here that I'll have to put 1 more single crochet in. This is a false stitch. This is that slip stitch into the very beginning single crochet, and we single crocheted up from there. It's part of the slip stitch and the chain 1. This is our very first stitch. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put 1 single crochet right there, 1 single crochet right there. I'm going to put 3 single crochets right there, and then I'm going to put 1 in there. Then I'm going to slip stitch into the very first one of this round. I'm going to chain 1, cut the tail, and finish it off. So, see what I'm doing here. I made a mistake the first time I videoed this, so I crocheted up this swatch, and now we're going to continue right where we left off. So, oh, I've got 3 to do here. Okay, here's where we left off, right here. I'm going to single crochet in here. I'm going to single crochet right here, and I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to put 3 single crochet into this middle one from the previous round. 2, see, that's why we call this splitty yarn. Okay, and here's the third one, and then 1 in the last stitch, and then skip that false stitch. We are going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull through. I want you to weave in the ends and meet me back here. Okay, we've done it. You have learned, let's see, from the very beginning, a slip knot, how to chain, how to count those chains, how to single crochet into that third loop, back across that chain, to turn your work, chain 1 and single crochet in rows, how to count your rows, how to finish off, and then do 2 rounds of a single crochet border. You learned how to change, from, one ball of yarn to the next. I showed you that because I want you to do another one of these now that you've completed this one. And you've learned how to finish off and weave in your ends. You have created, warts and all, one of the most usable pieces of crochet, I believe, that there is. Even more so than blankets and afghans. I believe the 100% cotton dishcloth or washcloth, either way, gets used more than anything else. You did it. I want you to make a second one, and I want you to post it either in one or 2 of your favorite crochet groups on Facebook, or on your own page on Facebook, and I want you to put hashtag Wanderlust Crochet with the picture. Post pictures of your work. And I don't care how many mistakes, I don't care if it looks like some drunken octopus named Octavia crocheted this into a crooked triangle. It doesn't matter. The great thing about these washcloths, dishcloths, is they can be used immediately. And as soon as you take your pictures, I want you to take this thing, soak it in the sink, and I want you to wash a glass or a plate with it. And then I want you to hang it over the sink or the edge of your drain board or whatever, and just let it dry. You did it. We did it. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this long video. The next one won't be that long. Love you guys. Bye.